All right, so we are diving deep today into an interview with Cristiano Ronaldo
Oh, wow.
from the Jonathan Ross Show. And what I think is interesting about this interview
Okay.
is, obviously everyone knows Ronaldo as like this, superstar athlete
Right, right.
and all of that. But this interview kind of gets more into like his personal life and his values
Yeah, yeah.
and what he kind of thinks about the future and what he sees for himself, post-career and all that.
I like that. Yeah.
So it starts off talking about, his early days at Manchester United.
Okay.
And, he moved there when he was only 18.
Wow.
And he had already left home at 12 to play football.
Yeah.
So you can imagine just like
Huge transition.
a huge cultural shift
Yeah.
and all the challenges he had to face just being so young. And
Yeah. And I mean, like most people at 18 are just kind of getting a taste of what independence is,
Right.
And he was like living on his own for 6 years at that point.
Yeah.
And then going to a whole new country with a new team. And then a coach who has a very strong Scottish accent. So,
Yeah. And there's this funny story about how Ronaldo needed a translator for Alex Ferguson, even though he spoke English,
really.
because the accent was so thick.
Wow.
And it just goes to show you that even like these little cultural things, can have like such a big impact on communication.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that, goes for anything really, not just language. It's just like those little cultural nuances
For sure.
can really throw a wrench in the works
Yeah.
if you're not careful.
Yeah, like when you were telling me about working with those clients from Japan and, you speak Japanese, but
Right.
it was just a whole other level of like understanding that was needed
Exactly.
to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah. It's a good reminder for all of us just to be really mindful of those things, especially when you're working with people from all over the world.
For sure.
Yeah.
But moving on to a little bit more of a heartwarming part of the interview, he talks a lot about his father, and just with like such a like heartfelt, emotion. And there's this one story about how when his father was hospitalized,
Mm-hmm.
Alex Ferguson let Ronaldo go be with his family, even though they had these crucial matches coming up.
Oh, wow.
And I think, that really speaks to the type of leader that Ferguson was, where it wasn't just about what was happening on the field.
Right.
It was about like recognizing the humanity in his players and like
Oh, really?
really having that connection and building trust with them.
I think that that's so important. And I think that that probably resonated deeply
Yeah.
with Ronaldo, especially given that he was so close to his father.
Yeah, and you can really hear that in the interview too. He talks about how his dad was so proud of his achievements, even like collecting all the newspaper clippings of his games and stuff.
Well, that's so sweet.
And it just makes you think about those early influences in your life and how they really shape, who you become.
Definitely. Yeah. It's like, who are those people in your life,
Yeah.
whose pride just like fueled your drive?
Oh.
Who believed in you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of achievements, he talks about the Ronaldo documentary,
Oh, yeah.
which he made for his fans.
Mm-hmm.
And, he has the largest social media following of any individual globally.
I think I heard that. Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense why the filmmakers would choose him to be the subject of this documentary.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like this interesting, look at personal branding and how that works in this digital age and how much of what we see is genuine and
Right.
how much is curated,
Yeah. Have you ever felt that pressure with like your LinkedIn and all that?
Oh, totally. Especially, like trying to build your network and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's always that pressure to present this like perfect, polished image.
Right.
But yeah,
It's tough.
that is.
But the documentary also like gives you these glimpses into his life as a father.
Okay.
And these like really sweet moments with his son Cristiano Jr. And you see this like side of Ronaldo that you don't often see, where he's like, really playful
Yeah.
and dedicated.
I like that.
And he even tells this funny story about how Cristiano Jr. wanted to be a goalkeeper one minute, and then the next minute he was changing his mind about what he wants to be when he grows up.
Oh, that's so fun.
I know, it's like so relatable.
Oh my gosh, it's like every kid I know does that.
I know.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to like the challenges of parenting and how, unlike his own parents, he doesn't want to put pressure on his son
Oh, yeah.
to like follow in his footsteps.
Right.
Which I think is really admirable.
Definitely.
There's also this funny story about how Wayne Rooney's son
Okay.
showed up with a temporary Rooney tattoo.
Oh, that's so cute.
And Ronaldo was like totally joking around with him about it. And it just shows that he has like this respect
Yeah.
and sportsmanship for his fellow players,
Yeah.
even his rivals.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows that like healthy competition doesn't have to be like cutthroat.
Right.
Yeah, there's room for camaraderie and all that.
Totally. Right.
But the interview gets a little bit more sensitive when they start talking about Cristiano Jr.'s mother.
Okay.
And Ronaldo's decision to keep her identity private. And it's kind of a complex situation because you have like the public's right to know.
Right.
And then you have his right to privacy.
Exactly.
And I think he's really trying to like find that balance and respect her privacy while also like, you know, committing to tell his son the truth when the time is right.
It's tough, I bet.
It is tough.
Yeah.
And this all kind of leads to one of the most like personal things that's revealed in the interview.
Okay.
Which is that his mother revealed that he was an unwanted child.
Wow. Yeah. That's heavy.
Yeah. And you can just imagine like the weight of that.
Totally. And I think it's really important though to understand the context, you know?
Right.
Like his mother was going through like extreme hardship at the time. You know, it's not like a justification, but it does offer like a deeper understanding of the circumstances surrounding that decision. And I think what's really remarkable is that like despite all of that, her love for him has always been so clear.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and you see that too in the interview, like how she talks about him, and she even says that she needs to take tranquilizers during his big games.
Oh, wow.
Because the stress is so much.
Really?
And I think that's so interesting because it shows you like the other side of fame.
Right.
Where we see like all the glitz and the glamour and everything.
Yeah.
But for the people close to that person, it can be such a different experience.
Yeah, you don't really think about that.
You don't.
It's like the burden of their success almost.
It is, yeah.
On the people around them.
And he recognizes that like he even has someone specifically like escort her to the game so that he doesn't have to worry about it.
Oh, wow. I know.
It's intense.
It's intense. But moving on to a little bit of a lighter subject, the interview also touches on his dating life.
And Jonathan Ross kind of like playfully asks him about it. And Ronaldo just says that he has like a few special someones.
A few special someones.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just that like classic celebrity dilemma, you know, where it's like, how do you date when you're in the public eye and everyone's watching your every move and
every relationship is scrutinized.
Exactly.
Yeah. It must be so hard to find someone that you can truly trust.
And someone who sees beyond
the
fame, and all that. But then they shift gears and start talking about his aspirations for the future.
Okay.
Particularly like what he wants to do after football.
Right.
And he's very clear that he has no interest in coaching.
Really?
Yeah, he's like not into it at all.
Okay.
But he does have a passion for his fashion brands.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of athletes end up going into fashion.
They do.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting how like, you know, our passions evolve over time.
Totally. Yeah, like what you're into at one point in your life might not be what you're into 10 years later.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to see him like, you know, embrace that.
Yeah.
And pursue something that he's really excited about.
Makes you think, is there anything you've been putting off?
Yeah, right.
That you really want to do?
But then the interview kind of ends with this like theme of Ronaldo wanting to finish his career at the top level.
Okay.
And he specifically uses the phrase with dignity.
With dignity.
Yeah. And he's like very adamant that he will not play in certain leagues like the US or Qatar or Dubai.
Wow. Okay. So it's really interesting that he brings up dignity.
Yeah.
And I think it's like more than just athleticism.
For sure.
You know, it speaks to like his values and like how he wants to be remembered.
Exactly.
It's like, what does dignity even mean in a career like that?
Exactly. It really makes you think about that, you know? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
To have a legacy built on dignity, you know? Is it about, you know, performing well? Is it about...
how you carry yourself?
Yeah, how you carry yourself on and off the field. Or is it about, you know, for someone like him choosing to like step away.
Right.
When he feels like he can't compete at that level anymore.
Yeah, I think it's all of those things.
Yeah.
And I think it's relevant to all of us too, not just athletes.
Totally.
Like no matter what you do, what does it mean for you to achieve something with dignity?
Yeah.
You know, what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
And I think that's what's so cool about this interview is that it really does give you like this more well-rounded picture of him. You know, it's not just about the headlines and the trophies and all that. You see like
the person behind all of that.
Yeah, the person behind all of that. The son, the father, all of it.
And the struggles too.
And the struggles.
You know,
yeah,
because he's human, you know.
He is.
And he has those moments of doubt and vulnerability and
Totally. And it just highlights that success isn't just about talent or luck.
It's hard work.
It's hard work and dedication and perseverance and all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, the biggest takeaway for me is that his story really emphasizes like staying true to yourself. Even when you're under so much pressure and scrutiny and all of that, and like recognizing the people in your life who have shaped you.
The people who matter.
Yeah, and who matter to you, and ultimately, defining success on your own terms.
Absolutely.
So as you go about your day, today we'll leave you with this.
Okay.
What does finishing with dignity mean to you?
That's a good one.
How do you want to be remembered? What legacy are you building?
Love it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Ronaldo's world beyond the pitch.
Yeah, this was great.